Hi guys, my name is Mayana. I am back with my phone microphone to do another video essay. I had so much fun on the video essay that I just did, and I actually received a lot of good comments, and I just was not expecting anybody to care. I think that I did it on like a really good topic, and it was something that I actually cared about. So I figured, why not do a video essay on something else that I care about, which is booktok and the tropification of reading the book community since 2017. And so although people did care about tropes, it's like over time I saw that the way that people cared about tropes definitely changed. And if you don't know what book tropes are plot structure, theme, storyline, character trait, motive, or a plot device that is commonly used in storytelling. Also, if I look over here a lot, I'm looking at my notes, sorry. Every book has book tropes because that's just something as readers that we all commonly love. And because so many books exist in so many genres, like there's no way that like tropes and things that are popular won't cross over. Some popular book tropes include enemies to lovers, second chance, grumpy ex sunshine, and then there are like sub tropes, so things like touch her and die or the one bed trope. Uncarly has a really good video going through all the tropes and explaining them. I really recommend checking that out. And then also the book Leo did a video about tropes, and I didn't want to watch the video because I didn't want that to affect my view on anything. Still, I'm sure it's a really good video. Romance books aren't the only books that does tropes. I pretty much read everything from every genre, and they all have tropes. For example, my favorite genre is sci-fi, and popular subgenre in it is a space opera. And that's just when something takes place in space, typically on a spaceship, and they're just like flying through space on an adventure. But with that subgenre, the trope found family is always used because it's always like a ragtag team of misfits put together or something like that. Another example will be fantasy. I really love fantasy. An uncommon trope for that one will be the chosen one trope, which I know a lot of people hate, but like I love the chosen one. Like, I'm sorry, I can never get sick of it. What can I say? The problem is it really only works, the tropification really only works in romance. And so when I mean by tropification, I mean when you see like a little book graphic, like you're just scrolling through Instagram, or like me, I look through my explore page a lot, and there'll be like a picture of two characters from a book, and it'll have something that points out all the tropes. That really only works in romance. Example, there is someone who was trying to recommend somebody else the Poppy War, and somebody commented was like, what are the tropes? And it's just like, what do you mean, what are the tropes? War, violence, trauma? There aren't really any, tropes in the Poppy War. Even though the Poppy War is one of my favorite books, it's an amazing book, but there's nothing really like fun and like cutesy that like you can get out of this book, like there's no like romance going on in the book that you're just like, oh my gosh, that was so good. But I understand it. Like, I understand the appeal of tropes. It's really easy to find book recommendations. It's easy to find what you like. It's easy, like if you're the kind of person who only likes to read one specific thing, then it's easy to know that if that book has something. Or on the flip side, if you're someone who doesn't like a particular thing, it's easy to know if that book has it, so then you can avoid it. So I do understand the appeal. I love tropes. I'm a trope girly. I prefer to Google my tropes or find them on Goodreads. Like, my favorite trope is actually second chance romance, which honestly is not that hard to like not find because every romance series does it now. But if I'm looking for a particular one, I can go, like if I'm looking for one, usually I'm looking for a trope with black characters, so I'll just type in on Google second chance romance black character. Now I will tell you, when you type in black character, you are going to get recommended dark romance books. You really have to make sure, like, the Google part will recommend you dark romance, and you really will have to do your own research. I actually don't even trust like the Google. You got to go to the links, and you got to go to something that links you to either Amazon or Goodreads. I wouldn't really take my recommendations from Amazon, but it's there. I prefer Goodreads because they're made by actual real people, so that's how I find my recommendations or tropes that's particularly like. But that's usually when it comes to like romance books. Like, if I'm reading a fantasy, like pretty much I'll just jump right into it because I really love that genre regardless. And like, I understand like some people just don't want to do that. Some people really don't even want to use Google, and like I'm not even trying to be funny. I don't know how, because I Google everything, any question I have. Like, fact checking. Like, I Google everything, and that's just not in some people's lifestyle. So I understand some people don't even think to Google. And like, why would you, when you can just go on Instagram, go to an author's profile and find their template that has what the book is about? I even feel victim to that sometimes if I'm like, for certain romances. So I do understand. And I also understand from the writer's perspective, it's really helpful to just say what the book tropes are, and you can have this audience run towards you. But at the same time, it just feels like in this era of like booktok, a lot, it's just like the tropification of things is letting authors know like what tropes are popular, so then they can just write those tropes and then everyone want to read their book. I've been reading romance actively since 2019. I've read romance before that. Like, actively, I make sure to put romance into my reading every single year since 2019, and I just feel like the quality of romance books just are not the same anymore. Or even like when you read a romance book that came out now versus one that came out in like the early 2000s, like for example, I've been watching a lot of like early 2000s rom-coms, and a lot of them are based off book adaptations. So I'll go and read the book adaptations, and it's just so like timeless. Now, not all of them, because some of them, like, you'll go and read the source material and be like, girl, what the fuck is this? Like, what? So I'm not gonna sit here and say that like all of them are so amazing or anything like that, but I just feel like the quality of romance books now just aren't the same. I'm not saying it's easy to be an author now or at any time, because it's not, but some people really do get lucky, and it makes it a little bit easier, which, I mean, that's good. Like, you want it to be easy. Like, it shouldn't be this hard to get your book out there, but it just seems a little bit like people aren't writing what they want to write. They're writing what their audience wants them to write, or what they see as popular. Like, for example, writing like 400-page romance books became really popular in like 2020 for some reason, and like every romance author just thought that they had to have this really long romance books, even though sometimes it really didn't even make sense for the romance to be that long. And it's very clear that they told their editor like, hey, maybe let's not edit so much, if they even had an editor. And it's like, it's so obvious that when authors are like following a trend, and when they're writing something because they can like jump on this train versus something that like they really feel like they want to. And like, for me, I enjoy a romance when it's something that an author like really truly loves. Like, this is something that they love for a while. Like, okay, for instance, Candy Stein, she writes hockey romances now, but when everybody was writing hockey romances, she was writing football romances. And I really want to say that a lot of people, hockey romances have become popular because sports romances used to be really popular, like basketball and football, but then a lot of readers were like, hey, these books aren't very diverse, which doesn't make any sense because Black people dominate basketball and football. So authors were like, you know what, you're right, let's move to a genre where we don't have to diversify our characters. So they moved to hockey romances because hockey isn't like, there aren't a lot of Black people that play hockey. There are some Black people that play it, but it's not like dominated by Black people. So in a world where everybody was writing their white hockey romances, Candy Snyder was writing football romances with Black characters. I have this really weird love-hate relationship with Ali Hazelwood, where I've read pretty much all of her books, but I just like get angry whenever a new book is announced, even though I'm gonna read it. And I think it stems from the fact that she is rewarded a lot of what BIPOC or own voices authors aren't rewarded. Like, she's released her first book in 2021, and since then she has released 6 books, and one is a novella. And these are all under publishing companies. Like, it's not new that an author will release like 3 books a year, but under publishing, you usually will release 1 book a year. So she's probably released, I'm not going to do the math. I'm sorry. I'm not good at math. I don't care. I'm not about to embarrass myself in front of you guys like that. I'm sorry. But you do the math yourself. And I know that's not her fault, which is why like I have like the back and forth where it gets announced that she's releasing this new book, and I'll be like, oh my fucking gosh, she's getting released a new book. Like, this is just so unfair. Like, there's so many own voices authors out there that's, could be getting this kind of attention, but then like the book will come out and it'll blow up and so many people will be talking about it. I'm like, well, it was kind of unfair for me to be thinking of it like that. And I never like, these are all thoughts on my own. Like, I try not to like hate on her online or whatever. I may have made a few videos though, but there's nothing there. So then a book will come out and I'll like refuse to read it, but then like everyone will be talking about it, and I'll think about the other Ali Hazelwood books that I've read that I've had fun reading and like have enjoyed. And I gave The Love Hypothesis 5 stars. Like, it was actually a really good book. And like, I'll think about those and I'm like, okay, well, it's unfair for me to blame her for something that's a publishing issue. Like, this is still her life. She still is doing that she loves, and it's her livelihood. Like, I shouldn't blame her for something that should be blamed for publishing. And so then I'm like, okay, girl, you were insane for blaming her. And it's just like, she gets to write all these like straight white fan fiction books, and she's even talked about how her publisher will just give her book tropes to write around and she'll write around them. And like, it just feels like, one, it feels like, I don't know, does book publishing work like that? Like, do they just give you books to like, anyways, whatever. But it's like, I can't be mad at that, because that's like a writing prompt. Like, it's like somebody, you find a writing prompt on Tumblr and being like, okay, like, I'm gonna write this thing, like, you know. It just like, it's the fact that her author is giving her book tropes to write around, I think, is the issue that like annoys me. Because it's not like, hey, like, this is like, why don't you write this subgenre? It's really popular. Why not try this subgenre? It's like, okay, we're gonna do fake dating, single bed, age gap, like, you know. And that's a whole fucking book right there. All you gotta do is just come up with 2 characters. And she already writes fan fiction, so you really just gotta just put some Raylo in a situation and be like, all right, there's my book. I don't know if you guys remember or know about the situation that happened with Tessa Bailey, but basically, Tessa Bailey has been around for a long time. I've read a lot of her books. I've kind of stopped reading them because I don't think that they're like good anymore. I think Tessa Bailey is good when you're just getting into romance, but like when you're a seasoned romance reader, a lot of her books are like a little corny and just not that good. So she came up with this book called Fangirl Down, and it's a sports romance, but it's a golf romance, and it's about a bad boy golfer. So it's bad boy golfer, forced proximity, fine, touch her and die. What the fuck? What is if they're like a golfer is the least threatening man you could. I live literally across the street from a golfing course. Those are some of the nicest men I've ever met in my life. And they're old, and they just all ride around in their little golf carts and like play golf. Like, what the fuck do you mean bad boy golfer? Most golfing guys are like really fucking old. Like, I have dated guys around my age who play golf, but it's like not that common. But yeah, and she's his number 1 fan, which I think is insane, because what are you doing being a fan of a golfer? A fan? Is this like, I don't know nothing about that girl. And it's Grumpy X Sunshine, which got me. I love Grumpy Sunshine. Okay, it's one of my favorite tropes. I love it. There's another author who, she was writing like a single dad, like, I think it was a sports romance, and it was like touch her and die. What the fuck are you? Well, I think hockey is more believable because those men are fucking insane. But then at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Don't do no, like, if I'm dating a guy and he's like, yeah, like, touch her and die. If you're not actually gonna kill the man, don't say that shit, okay? Don't be playing around. Don't play around with my emotions. Sorry, that's the romance girl speaking. But it's like, it doesn't make sense in like a contemporary setting. Kind of like with enemies to lovers. It frustrates me so much that like a lot of these like romance contemporary books are marketed as enemies to lovers, and none of them are actually enemies to lovers. Like, it's really just like one character hates the other while the other one like is fine with them, or they're secretly pining after them. Not hate to love, okay? Or it's like the author is telling you that it's hate to love, but like it's not actually shown that it's hate to love. Like, what the fuck? Like, Fourth Wing, that book was like enemies to lovers, but they weren't actually enemies. Like, he didn't, like, it was a fantasy book and it was enemies to lovers, but he didn't try to kill her. If you're not trying to kill each other, it's not an enemies to lovers. And like, you can't read an enemies to lovers in a contemporary setting, because if he tries to kill you, that's a red flag, girl. You better get the fuck out of there. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you can't have enemies to lovers in like a real. And then most of these authors who write contemporary, like, hate to love, don't know what they're doing anyways. It's coming from a true, like, enemies to lovers, hate to love enthusiast, okay? There are actually so many books that are written every single year that's like, enemies to lovers, hate to love. And then when I read them, I'm like, okay, well, that's actually rivals to lovers. Okay, that's annoyance to lovers. Like, that's not actually enemies to lovers. Like, there are, like, very few books that I can actually recommend that are pure enemies to lovers or pure hate to love. And like, I get it, because the author wants to write the boy falls first at the same time as the enemies to lovers, but it's like, girl, you're gonna have to take one out, okay? Because you can't do both here. We need real, tried and true enemies to lovers. I need somebody to get in the studio, pick up that pen and write an enemies to lovers, okay? So there's this quote from Michigan Daily that says, when books become tropified, they lose individuality. And I think that that is such a good point, because right now it feels like every single romance book feels the exact same. Everyone is a single parent, age gap, sports romance, cowboy romance, single bed trope, and sometimes it doesn't even fit with the book. A lot of it feels forced. Like, for instance, the fake dating trope. Fake dating used to be one of my favorite tropes. When I first read To All the Boys I Loved Before in high school, when I was 15 and about like 13, I absolutely lost my fucking marbles, okay? I was like, fake dating is amazing. I want to read everything that's fake dating trope. And then I grew up, and I became an adult, and I grew out of high school books, and authors were writing fake dating, and I was like, why the fuck are these adults fake dating? It doesn't make any sense. Like, it makes sense in high school when it's like these two characters like fake dating, like To All the Boys I Loved Before, they're fake dating because, you know, he wants to make Jen jealous, and she's trying to escape like this guy that she told she was in love with. That was her sister's ex-boyfriend. So it's like, that makes sense in a high school setting, because when you're in high school, you do stupid stuff. But as an adult, why are you fake dating because you told your grandma that you had a boyfriend because she's always nagging you about having, you know, not settling down? Tell your grandma to fuck off. That the fake dating plots make sense as an adult. And so once you read, personally for me, once I read so many of them, I start to really look and see like, okay, does this make sense? I could read a high school romance right now and be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense for fake dating. One of the most recent fake dating adult books that I can think of that makes sense is The Bodyguard, because but then at the same time, it's like, because he didn't want to let his family know that he had a bodyguard, because he didn't want to worry his family because of what happened. So like, that makes sense. Nothing just feels new anymore. Nothing feels authentic. Everything just kind of feels the same, and like it's being written to get an audience and not because it's something that the authors purely want. And I get it. If it's easier to, get an audience, selling out and writing these tropes that are popular so that you can get people to read your book. But personally, for me, in a world where book tropes are important, it is really important for me to find something that authors love. And also, there are readers out there who love things that aren't popular. For instance, I read this book called Lipsticks and Camera Clicks earlier this year. It's a black girl in a love triangle, and it's actually one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. And love triangles, we all know love triangles are shat on. I personally love love triangles. I think they're entertaining. They're fun to me. I can never get tired of them. I think it's mainly because there's always one guy that I'm rooting for and he always wins, because I'm always on the right side of history. Like, maybe if you're on the right side of history, you would like love triangles more. That's all I have to say. But when I was promoted on BookTok, it actually blew up, and so many people were like, ugh, I don't want to read it because it's a love triangle. I don't give a fuck. Pick this book up and read it. The fuck? What do you mean? I don't want to read it because it's love triangle and I don't like love triangle. Like, it should have just been poly. And also the amount of comments of people who were like, does it have smut? Was absolutely insane. Now, there were people in the comments who didn't want to read the smut, and so I didn't mind answering them. Crazy, because it's now we've gotten to the point where every single book has smut, that people now have to ask oh, does it have smut, so they can know whether they want to read it or not. And then it's for me personally, I just usually skim read the smut, or I just skip over it. But a lot of the time, these romance books are heavy with smut. You at that point, if you were to skim read or skip over all the smut scenes, you would miss the whole fucking book. And I think that's insane. Now we're gonna go through the templates. I literally went on my Instagram, I typed in book tropes, and all you see is just a bunch of templates, a bunch of even people pointing to the books and talking about their tropes. And at some point it is really good. One says that it has plus size rep, so that's really cool, diversity. But a lot of them are just exes to rivals, hockey romance, spicy and sweet, best friend's brother, one bed trope. A lot of them aren't even no offense. Or okay, so then I found this one, and it's called Hate Mail, and it's enemies to lovers. dual POV. Oh, I would not fucking like. I hate dual POV. I hate when women authors write men. I think that they don't know how to write men, and it pisses me off because a lot of the men will, the chapter will start off, yeah, and this slutty whore got out of my bed and I told her to get the fuck out. I never want to see her face again. I got dressed and I brushed my teeth. And it's like, just like how men can't write women, women can't write men. Okay? Okay, anyways, dark humor, rom-com, steamy, pen pal romance. Sounds like something I would not like. Or Final Offer, which I've read. Damn it. I've read the first and second book in the series. I thought the first book was okay. Actually, I didn't like it. I thought the second book was better, but there were still issues I had with it. So it takes place in summer. Check trigger warning stash. Content warning. Book 3 in the series. Ex-childhood best friends to lovers. Actually, I do like that trope, and I feel like it's underwritten. I might have to tune in. Reuniting after 6 years, second chance romance, forced proximity, billionaire romance, off the ice, hockey romance, he falls first, college romance, friends to lovers, no third act breakup, sports psychologist female main character, he falls hard, black cat ex golden retriever. Just like Grumpy Sunshine. Also, another thing, I hate when someone's like, oh, this reverse Grumpy Sunshine. You just mean Grumpy Sunshine. There are no roles set in Grumpy Sunshine. It's not, oh, she's sunshine, he's grumpy. There's no like gender said in Grumpy Sunshine. So there's no need for you to go reverse Grumpy Sunshine. It doesn't make any fucking sense. But I've noticed instead of doing that, people have now said black cat golden retriever. Is not the same thing? So instead of saying reverse grumpy Sunshine, they just say black cat golden retriever. So you can know that the girl is the black cat and the guy is the golden retriever. I'm owning you guys. I'm not fucking stupid. Yeah, I wouldn't read that. Simply because I cannot stand hockey romances anymore. Like, the thought of them makes me want to throw up. Okay, no, this one actually just pissed me the fuck off. Mental health rep, him, reformed playboy, single mom, no third act breakup. The fact that people have to put that in their romance books is actually sad. Like, we all hate the third act breakup that much. And I'm including myself because I hate it. He falls first. Okay, this is what made me mad. Age gap. She's 39 and he's 34. So yeah, that's all that I have to rant about. If you like this video essay, let me know. I feel like in the beginning I kind of was like just getting my footing, but like towards the end I got a little bit more comfortable. I hate looking at my notes because I know that people prefer eye contact, but it's just so much more easier because I can't remember exactly what I scripted out. So I'm gonna try to get better at that. But if you guys want more video essays, let me know. So yeah, let me know if you want me to keep doing these video essays, because now that I kind of got the hang of it and I have topics that like I actually really care about and like things that I've been wanting to talk about, I really want to do more. So yeah, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.